Hi everyone, it's Jerry. Let's have a look at a game that was played in Denmark in 1953. On the white end, Moises Kupferstich, and he's up against Harry Andreasen. Now, this is quite the unique game. I'm not sure if it falls more so under the educational or entertaining category. Feel free to share what your thoughts are on it. What I can say is that it's rare for a game to not be entertaining when you have this rare and aesthetic tactic on board. We'll see that in the endgame phase. Also, the opening itself, one of the more unique opening names you'll find in chess. Knight takes e4 signals this Frankenstein Dracula variation out of the Vienna game. In this game, white continues with queen h5, looking straight for mate on f7. Scholar's mate-like idea. If the knight is captured, we would have this familiar center fork trick. This is how black would get the piece back. Black would already be doing very well with this position. In our game is queen h5. How to defend f7, knight d6. Knight's defending, knight's also attacking. Bishop b3. Black develops, black defends e5. Considered best is bishop to e7, giving back that pawn, but this is also a line. Now comes knight b5, and black has to find an only move. The threat here is to take the knight with check, and then give checkmate. g6 is the only move. Queen f3. White is persistent, wants mate on f7 just from a different angle. Now, in this game, knight f5 is played. f5 is also a move here, and this line I have to share with you. This is probably the line that pulls in many players to this variation of the Vienna because of the craziness of it. It's the line I'm going to share with you is one where black gives up a rook and has compensation based on the better developed pieces, the strong knights in the center, strong pawn presence. What does this look like exactly? Well, after queen d5, black must now defend f7 with the queen and allow this fork. And here's the compensation for black. The bishop comes to b7, and if white isn't careful, maybe the queen could even be trapped after knight d4. She's in the center, but she would be trapped. Possible problems on g2. A messy game ahead, to be sure. In our game, the knight goes to f5, not the pawn. Queen d5. This queen is getting quite the workout. First, she's on h5, trying for mate. Then f3, trying for mate. And now here she is on d5 yet again, looking for mate. On f7, only move here, knight h6. d4, another instance where black is in an only move situation. First it was the knight trying to take out the knight on d6, and then give mate on f7, and now it's the bishop trying to knock the knight out. Only move is d6. The idea, to meet the move played in the game, bishop takes knight with the in-betweener, bishop e6, hitting the queen, defending mate. Queen goes to f3, bishop takes b3, bishop takes it on f8, and close to an only move here for black, has to choose between one of these two, has to counterattack the knight. If black captures in this position, captures the bishop with the king or the rook, white would take the bishop. We'd have the bishop's exchange, and white would simply be up a knight. So black has to go after this guy. Now comes bishop to g7. And in this game, the rook goes to g8. Considered best is to capture the knight. Now, this line I'm about to share with you is interesting because it's another case where black can be giving up a rook and can very easily be the side who's winning, this time giving up the king rook. Let's see this variation. This is considered best. bishop takes knight. And if white takes the rook after knight d4, it says queen f6 is the only move for white all of a sudden. If you're more human, you would see, okay, my queen is hit, and I should move the queen and also defend against this fork. Well, if you do that, with let's say going back home, black would already be winning. Black is down a rook, but winning. Why is that? Well, there would be this really powerful deployment of the queen to g5, and what would white do about this? There's no good answer to it. This seems like it defends, but it doesn't. After queen f5, there's two threats. There would now be two threats, two fork threats. Knight takes c2 with check, as well as queen e4. Two forks on board being threatened. Black is winning with this variation. So this rook doesn't necessarily have to react to this threat. Bishop takes knight is available. In this game, though, it's rook g8. And from here, bishop f6, queen d7. And in this game, the knight goes back to a3. Computer's a fan of simply castling, giving the piece back, and blasting open the center. White goes with knight to a3, anticipating that this is going to hit, and at least it's there stopping the fork on c2. Knight takes d4 follows, queen h3, queens are exchanged, and in this game, knight takes c2 is played, and from this point on, white is winning. Considered best in the computer's eyes is a line, or one of the better moves is to put this guy on the long diagonal and play a position where white has a knight versus black's two pawns. All right. In this game, knight takes c2 is basically activating the white rook to get to this 7th rank. We're not really with this sequence simply exchanging pawns, exchanging c-pawns, but it's almost as if white is winning a pawn. The activity of a white rook on the 7th rank must be worth at least a pawn. All right, in this game, bishop e4 follows, knight g5. In this game, bishop takes g2. If bishop goes to c6, stopping the rook from getting here, this pawn can fall. This bishop remains a big thorn in black's side. Bishop takes g2. And what do we do here? In the earlier variation, when the white bishop was on g7 attacking the rook reacted, went to g7, but white is not going to be doing similar in this game. White says, go ahead, take my rook. I want to get to the 7th rank. Bishop takes rook follows. Knight takes f7. Watch how beautifully these three pieces coordinate. These rooks are doing nothing, staring at pawns. From here, bishop d5, knight d6 check, only move. Bishop g5, the king needs a new square. Nearby there's this check, a sad move coming up, rook h8, but at least the king has a square. Bishop h6 check, only move. Rook g7 check, king f8. This is this rare and aesthetic tactic I spoke of at the start. What we see in action in this game is a windmill tactic. Rook goes to c7 with check. You could also capture on b7. White doesn't go straight in for this windmill. First, inserts knight to c8. It isn't necessary, but eventually we get on course here with the windmill tactic. Here we go with the check. Here we go with a discovered check. White picks up a pawn. King g8. What other options are there? If the king goes left, it would be a mate in 2. He has to keep making use, or he has to keep going to f8 and g8. If you step on this square, here's the mate in 2. Knight d6 check, forcing king here. The knight controls these two, the rook has these three, and nearby mate with bishop g5. So you have to keep going to g8. Another check, king f8. Discovered check, king g8. And now rook takes rook, bishop takes rook. In one final move to this game, there's only one way to win. Can you spot the final move? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, here we go. Final move, knight d6. Black resigns. Why? You see what just happened? This last move has sealed the black king and rook in the corner, and there's no escape. White has just taken away the f7 square from the king. The bishop has these two. What do? So this knight and bishop cannot be disturbed by the light square bishop, and they forever control these three. These pawns could move, right? But we would follow a general rule of simply taking towards the center. There's no problem here. What I have highlighted, they all offset. What this position now comes down to is a case where it is a white king and two pawns versus a bishop. And the plan is to simply come over here on the queen side and start advancing the pawns, have the king assist in their advance. You may have one minor attempt by black to try for stalemate, but I don't believe there's any way that black can force you to take that light square bishop. The black king and rook are forever stuck. What I just shared with you is a technique that good chess players frequently use throughout a game. With this technique, you're taking what appears to be complex, a messy looking fraction, for instance, and you're trying to make it look simple for it to be more easily understood. Anyhow, feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.